So housing is kind of a nightmare. In 6.3, Square Enix added 1,800 new plots to each world, meaning that players had a better chance at getting a house at the start. And it turns out a lot of players want houses. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I had no idea how big of a deal this was until I digged a bit further. Now, we're not all lucky enough to have sugar daddies, so let's talk about housing and the one solution I see. It's becoming increasingly clear that adding more plots is just a band-aid or duct tape, whatever metaphor you prefer, to the housing problem. Now, FF is the only MMO to have housing. Almost every other MMO minus WoW has it in some form. Everything from ESO to Wizard 101, even Free Realms, if you remember that game, had housing. But there's something that these MMOs did differently. They instanced their housing, meaning there were no neighborhoods, plots, no lotteries, you just bought the house. And you can probably see where this is going, but yeah, I think the most obvious solution is instance housing. But not every player is on board with this, and I see why. Part of the appeal of buying a house is that neighborhood. It's seeing someone build a KFC a few blocks down. It's having your neighbor throw a block party. On top of that, there are apartments, which are instance and fairly easy to get to, albeit a bit limited with what you can do. So I understand the concern. Suddenly, if anyone can get a house, it's not as special, but hear me out. Part of the appeal of housing is seeing the creativity of players on full display. I already mentioned the literal KFC, but there are nightclubs, haunted houses, and runways for glamour competitions. There is so much potential if housing becomes more accessible. Not to mention the potential of instant housing in particular. With plots, you're pretty limited with what you can do, at least when it comes to things like size. But with instant housing, there really is unlimited potential. For example, when I was still playing Elder Scrolls Online, they just kind of gave everyone a big castle for free. Now, I'm not advocating that every FF player get a free house or a free castle. Key word, and the key part of that, is the castle. The potential for houses and scenery is really up to the developers with instant housing. There are so many different zones and skyboxes that would be perfect. I can imagine building a house in Ozzy's Law, or the Lakelands, or the Sea of Clouds. The potential is there, but I've talked up my idea. Let me spend the rest of this video tearing it to shreds. Housing is a sensitive subject for some players, and I definitely don't want this to feel one-sided. Obviously, instant housing, especially my ideas for instance housing, would almost completely destroy the housing market. That's no exaggeration. As much as I talk about the community aspect of having a neighborhood, at the end of the day, players just want a house. It would make housing a lot less special, and it would make current homeowners frustrated. I mean, they fought and won the lottery. Why should others just get away around it? Another criticism is the technical side. Is this something that's even possible? And no, I don't think other games having instant housing is an answer to that question. Every game is different, and FF14 is about a decade old. Not to mention, they're still running around with the same jank from 1.0. So yeah, I can get on board with the idea that technical limitations prevent instant housing 100%. I mean, we all know how islands worked when they first launched, but at the end of the day, this is all my opinion. To be honest, with how it works right now, I have no desire to get into housing. It seems way too stressful in its current state. So, are you on board with instant housing? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Thank you for watching and take care.